There's no doubt that when you're shopping for a new car, you give a fair amount of attention to the safety features. And who would blame you? Like we said in a previous episode, when it comes to driving, safety should be your top priority. And at Suzuki, we pride ourselves on fitting as many safety features into our cars as we can, even in our more budget-friendly models. Having said that, welcome to another edition of our safety series, where we're going to discuss Suzuki safety features and how they work. Let's get into it. Welcome back to our channel. I'm your host, Londega, and if you are new here and you like what you see, please do the cool YouTube thing and like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. Now, I'd be lying if I told you I knew all there was to know about the safety features in Suzuki cars, which is precisely why I found someone who does. And here we are. As promised, we are here with our safety expert, Peter. How are you doing?
Well, and yourself, Andeka?
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I look forward to finding out all the safety features that we have in this car. I think it's going to be very informative and hopefully not so scary.
It's not going to be scary at all. It's going to be absolutely fun. Don't stress. And I can't wait to showcase all the safety features that we found typically on a Suzuki.
Let's go. Let's get into it. All right, so Peter, it's been brought to my attention that you actually get two types of safety features, the active and the passive safety features.
Yes, so those two names describe exactly what the safety features are doing. So our passive safety features are safety features that are trying to mitigate the effects of an accident. So typically our airbags, our seat belts, and even our chassis to a large extent are passive safety features. And then our active safety features, as the name suggests, are actively trying to prevent us from having an accident. So things like anti-lock braking system, our brake assist, our electronic brake force distribution, and then of course our electronic stability program are all trying to prevent us from having that accident.
Interesting. So today we're going to get to see some of those safety features in action.
For sure. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that as well. The humble seatbelt, first introduced in 1949. Unfortunately, prior to that, if you were in an accident, your only chance of survival really was to predict the accident, open the door and barrel roll out of the car. So luckily we have what is really a remarkable safety device these days.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, so please tell us a little bit more about the seatbelt. What does it actually do and what are some of its features?
There's a couple of functions that a seatbelt performs. One of the important ones, of course, is that we need to be wearing our seatbelt to fully take advantage of an airbag that's deploying. If you can imagine an airbag deploying and we don't have our seatbelt on, that airbag deploys at 300 kilometers an hour.
Sure.
We're traveling forward at, let's say, 100 kilometers an hour. That's a 400 kilometer an hour impact. And that's going to cause damage. So it's critical for us to have our seatbelt on to meet the airbag on its deflation stage, which is the optimal point. But there's other features that a seatbelt has that people perhaps don't know about that really contribute towards reducing injury and death for that matter. So the first thing is that a seatbelt material is stretchy, believe it or not. So in a high impact scenario where we're perhaps experiencing 40 Gs of force, that material stretches. And that's so that we don't have this rigid impact up against the seatbelt itself, which can cause injuries. The second feature is we have a pre-tensioner device, and that is actually classified as a pyrotechnic device. There is a little explosion that takes place at the base of the seatbelt, and that winds up the seatbelt and pulls us nice and snugly into our seat.
Nice.
Once again, that stops us from slapping up against the seatbelt in the first instance, but the second thing is it stops us from submarining through the seatbelt. Especially if we're in the wrong seating position. And the third thing is that we have a load force limiter. And the load force limiter really is this high torsion spring that we have attached to the seatbelt. And again, in a high impact scenario, the seatbelt's allowed to move a little bit against the spring, and that slows us down. And it's all about slowing us down so that we don't have too harsh an impact and we also reduce a whole lot of forces.
Sure, very interesting.
The humble seatbelt, who knew?
All right, so while we're still on the passive safety features, we made mention of a airbag.
Yes, so an airbag, which is known as a secondary or supplementary restraint system. Remember that our seatbelt is actually our primary restraint system. So airbags are there to protect us in a violent impact.
Okay, so what do these airbags actually do and where are they positioned?
Well, let's have a look at the Suzuki Swift Sport that we've got next to us over here. This has 6 airbags in fact in it. So we've got 2 airbags in the front, our driver and passenger airbag, and that's designed to protect us in a frontal impact. And then we have an airbag curtain, which stretches along the length of the vehicle from the A pillar to the C pillar. And that's designed to protect us in a side impact, and it's designed to protect our heads in particular, especially if we are impacting a pole, which is our worst case scenario type of impact.
All right.
And then of course we have our last 2 airbags, which are our side impact airbags, not to be confused with the curtain airbags. And those are located in the seats themselves.
Interesting. And what do those protect?
So those protect us again from a side impact, especially if another vehicle's impacting us. We don't have a lot of wriggle room on the side of the vehicle, unlike the front and the rear where we've got our crumple zones. And so that's to protect our vital organs, our hip and pelvic area.
Okay, all right. So tell me about the point of contact and pressure. How do airbags help us and assist in that regard?
Well, that's a very interesting question. So one of my favorite scientists, Pascal, who gave us the unit of pressure, also has a rule that says for a certain force, that force, the smaller the area that it's acting on, the greater the pressure that it creates. So we can do a little demonstration of this. If we all take our index fingers and we push hard into our chest muscle, it's quite sore,
It is quite painful.
right? But you take your hand, bigger surface area, now we can push quite hard, in fact, and we don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what an airbag is doing. So when we impact onto the airbag itself is taking up the surface area of our head and upper body and distributing the pressures that way, which is a lot better than impacting onto a small surface area of a steering wheel, for example.
Interesting. Okay, and then are airbags always released?
Not at all, not at all. And in fact, these days, a modern chassis is so well designed, especially in absorbing impact forces, that where an airbag would have been required to deploy perhaps 10 years ago, these chassis today absorb so much of the impact forces that a lot of the time you can have quite a serious accident and the airbags won't deploy.
Sure.
And I think people must also understand that there's not a problem with that. The control units that regulate the deployment of airbags are so sophisticated that it's highly unlikely that your airbag is going to fail.
So moving on to the more active safety features, we have something called ABS. What is ABS?
ABS? That stands for always be sexy. No, I'm kidding, of course. So ABS is a remarkable safety system that's been around since 1978, and it stands for anti-lock braking system.
Okay, what does that do? How does that work?
Well, as the name suggests, it prevents the wheels from locking. And the way that the car knows that a wheel's locking is we have speed sensors on each wheel, and as soon as a wheel locks up, the system then releases the brakes, which allows the wheel to turn and then starts braking again.
Okay.
And we go through a cycle of locking and unlocking the wheel, which is very important for people to understand, because the very first time that you experience ABS, you have this real pulsing mechanical feel, and people sometimes think that their brakes have failed, when in fact they're working perfectly.
All right. So how does that actually work when in motion?
So what happens is that ABS's main function, a lot of people think, is to slow a car down quicker, when in fact it's for us to be able to steer around an object to avoid it under heavy braking. And in fact, in the motor industry, we sometimes refer to ABS, the acronym, as being allows braking and steering, because that perfectly describes exactly what the main benefit of ABS is.
Okay. All right, Peter, would you mind maybe just taking me through that and showing me how it actually Works.
Absolutely, and in fact what we're going to do is the first time we drive, we're going to deactivate all the systems on the car, so we're going to have no ABS.
Oh,
and then we're going to put the ABS back on, and you'll see just how remarkable the system is.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So now it's the moment of truth. So what we're doing now is we are turning off all the systems.
Okay.
So we're going to make this same type of car that perhaps your grandparents would have had, eh?
Oh my goodness.
Safety systems. And what I want to demonstrate with this is how out of control we are without ABS on the vehicle and our inability to turn. Okay, so watch this. We need to build up a bit of speed. We lock the brakes, and you see if I turn, the car does not turn.
Oh my!
You see that?
Oh wow! Okay.
So you can see now the importance of
ABS.
Why the wheel needs to be round so that it can turn. If you go, I'll tell you when to brake. Okay. That's it. Keep going. Accelerate. Accelerate. Okay, that's enough speed.
Okay.
And brake hard. Turn. And you see that no control.
What? Okay. Why does it go the opposite direction?
That's just because some of the tires had grip and some of the tires didn't. And by the way, that's one of the features that we wanted to explain as well just now, which is electronic brake force distribution.
Okay.
Now, can you see how the car turned?
Oh, yes.
Because the right-hand side had more grip than the left-hand side.
Okay.
So it was a perfect demo. Well done. You did 2 demos in one.
I know.
You're a pro. You're lying to me. You're a pro at this. You've done this before.
It's not my first rodeo.
So now we're almost going to disappoint you because we've turned ABS on, and now we're going to be able to go really fast. You're going to brake as hard as you can. Once again, I want you to lock those wheels up, and then I want you to gently turn to the left, and you'll see it does it without any fuss.
Okay, let's go.
All right, off we go.
Ready?
Let's go. Sit. Okay, brake, turn.
Oh, wow.
Did you hear the brake coming in, the ABS?
We spoke about earlier.
All right, see how effective it is, eh?
That is crazy.
Okay, awesome.
Nothing like before.
Nothing like before. Totally cool, calm and collected, under control.
Sure.
So EBD is an acronym for Electronic Brake Force Distribution.
Okay.
It's unfortunately not a system that we can easily demonstrate. So while we're talking, we're going to cut away to some very fancy and cool graphics, which will explain everything.
I'm good with that.
But essentially what EBD does is, as the name suggests, it proportions brake force and brake bias between the front and rear of the vehicle, as well as between the left and right-hand side of the vehicle.
Interesting. So how does that actually happen?
Well, I want you to imagine that when we brake, which is our normal sort of driving conditions, we brake, all the weight transfer, or at least 80% of the weight transfer goes to the front of the vehicle, which makes the back wheels nice and light. So we want to remove brake force from the rear wheels and rather concentrate our brake effort on the front wheels.
Where the action happens.
Where the action happens.
Okay.
But there's a cool feature with EBD because it can also detect if we've put load into the vehicle. So if we've put in luggage or we've got passengers sitting in the rear of the vehicle, the car knows this, and it now can, because we've got extra weight on the rear, proportion brake force to the rear wheels as well.
Sure.
Which means that despite adding load to the car, we can still stop it very, very quickly despite that extra weight.
Sure. Okay, so above and beyond the front and the rear, you mentioned something about the sides.
Yes.
How does that work?
So one thing that you're going to notice for the rest of your driving career is that a lot of our roads are cambered.
Sure.
And the reason why they're cambered is so that we can get rid of dirt and muck and oil and water, etc., etc. The negative of that, unfortunately, is that our left track is usually a little less grippy compared to our right track. And now, if we had to have no EBD in the vehicle and brake hard, what's going to happen is the left wheels are going to lose traction before the right wheels.
Sure.
And if you've ever seen a tank turn or a wheelchair turn, we do that by braking the right-hand wheels, and it's going to cause the vehicle to pitch to the right. And that's going to be undesirable because we're going to be heading straight off into oncoming traffic. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what EBD does is it actually removes brake force from the wheels that have got the most grip to equalize our brake effort. And that means that the vehicle will brake in a straight line. It's a very, very cool system.
That is so cool. All right, while still on the active safety features, please take me through what ESP is. What is ESP?
So ESP is an awesome safety system. There's a lot of different names for ESP. The most common one is ESP, Electronic Stability Program.
All right.
And what ESP does is actually two main functions. The first and foremost is it corrects a skid.
Okay.
And the second is it takes away the causes of a skid.
Okay, so what do we have, like what happens during a skid? What types of skids do we have?
So fundamentally, we only have two types of skid.
Okay.
So we have understeer, which, as the name suggests, there's an underperformance of the steering. So we turn the steering wheel, but we've lost traction on our front wheels and we keep tracking straight. And then we have oversteer, which is everybody's favorite. And that, as the name suggests, is an overperformance of the steering. So for a particular steering input, the back comes round and we lose control of the vehicle that way.
Okay, so then how does ESP prevent
a skid from occurring?
Yes.
Okay, so I think first of all we need to understand that there's four causes of a skid.
Okay.
So the four causes of a skid, unlike what people think, a lot of people say, the surface could be wet or could be sandy. That doesn't cause a skid. The four causes of a skid are excessive speed, harsh acceleration, harsh braking, harsh steering, or a combination of the above.
Oh, okay.
And so what ESP does is, in the event that, for example, our skid is caused due to harsh acceleration, it'll reduce the torque from the engine to take away that acceleration and then implement its protocols to correct the skid.
That is insane. So it kind of counters what it is that you have done to cause the skid.
Absolutely, takes everything away, takes the humanity away from driving, which is what's caused the skid in the first place. It intervenes for us and takes away the causes, and then it corrects the skid. And the way it corrects a skid is even more interesting because it uses individual brakes on each wheel to correct the skid. So let's go back to our two types of skid.
Okay.
If I'm oversteering and the backs come out, it's going to brake the outer front wheel, which causes the front to move around, and those two forces cancel each other out, and we track in our intended direction.
That is
How cool is that?
Incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
Now, that would be interesting even more if we could actually see it. Is there a way to do that?
For sure. This is really going to be a cool demo for you to experience, because again, we're going to first turn the systems off, get wildly out of control. You're going to barely be able to control the car.
Oh my goodness.
And then we're going to go back to systems on, and you're going to see just how incredible the vehicle becomes. You almost can't get it out of control.
Let's get into it. Peter, I can't wait. Let's do it.
All right, so you did fantastically on that NBS, by the way, on that demo. So well done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up a notch and lose control in a more spectacular way, because now we're going to do one of the skids, which is oversteer. I'm going to deliberately get the car out of control. We're going to spin out of control, so don't stress. The systems are all off again. So this is really to showcase what it would have been like to lose control of a vehicle. And this happens very quickly, by the way. If you do a sudden lane change to avoid an object, a box falls off a truck, or there's a vehicle that's crashed in front of you, or a pedestrian runs in front of you, and you suddenly swerve, it's this action that unsettles the car and gets it spinning.
Okay.
Okay, so this happens really, really quickly. Okay, so let's have a look at what it looks like when we don't have ESP up.
All right, let's go.
So as we go, and next thing we lose control.
Let's go.
And that's what happens. Build up a bit more speed. I want more speed. That's it. That's enough speed. Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Oh my God.
And off we go. Okay, off the brakes. On the brakes. On the brakes. There we go.
Wow.
How was that?
When I say don't try this at home, I mean don't try this at home.
So now what we're doing is we've got the systems on, And we're going to do exactly the same route. I'm going to get the car out of control by pulling the handbrake up as hard as I can. And again, you're going to see how magnificent ESP is. And one of the things you're going to feel is the brake intervention on the front right wheel, where it's going to bind that brake and bring the front round. Okay, so let's go.
All right. All right, let's go.
Okay, so build up a decent bit of speed. And we can start turning, so keep it nice. Okay, build up more speed, more speed, more speed. That's it, and... Do you see how the car corrected itself?
But nothing like before. Sure, Peter. So, what started out as an incredibly scary experience ended up being really exciting and enlightening as well.
It's amazing just how incredible these systems are.
Sure.
And I mean, look at how you developed throughout the day and how much confidence you developed as well. It was incredible to see. Well done.
Thank you very much. And I think for me, the highlight was just seeing the difference between when we had the controls off and when we had them on. It was like a night and day experience.
Absolutely, and I think that's really the essence of what we've tried to achieve today, is to highlight the difference between the systems on and off, and just how amazing these Suzukis really, really are.
Yeah, and moreover than that, like if ever you happen to find yourself in a situation like that, you now know what to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
For me, I can't thank you enough.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. We're going to go right back to studio.
And there you have it. We hope that that was helpful for you and that you learned as much as I did about the different safety features we have inside our cars and how they work. As always, if you feel like there is anything you want to know more about and unpack in further detail, drop us a message in the comment section below. But that's all the time we have left for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Until next time, stay safe.